All right, welcome to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, David Wilcock. I'm here with Corey Goode, and we have a special edition for you here with the legendary William Henry. Now, I've been familiar with William Henry's work since the late 1990s. He has been extremely consistent. I've gone all over the place. I've talked about everything you can imagine, Illuminati, UFOs. William has always been focused on ascension, focused on Christ, focused on the true core of what the message is that we're all ultimately here to convey. And William has really done an incredible amount of work, unlike anybody I've ever seen, in terms of looking at art and seeing some really, really provocative stuff. And when we found out the information that William had and the corroborating power that that brings to Corey Goode's testimony, we said, that's it, we have got to have him on the show. Wait till you see the stuff that we have in this episode. It is going to blow your mind. So, William, how you doing, buddy?
Very good. Very good.
Can you just give us a little take on your idea of ascension? What is ascension?
Well, I always take people back to the story of the caterpillar and the butterfly. The idea is that we're all living in a pupal phase in our human body, but within us is an ascended phase, a next level, the butterfly. And the problem is we're kind of like that cartoon I saw once of the two caterpillars looking at the butterfly, and another one flies by and they say, "You'll never get me up in one of those things," right? we don't have a concept of what it means to ascend, but simply it means to become a celestial traveler, a cosmic being, to leave behind our caterpillar phase and morph or phase into an ascended form. And as you said, I've really studied the art of ascension, and they almost always show it the same way. It's a humanoid form, a light being, a luminous, radiant being, often shown in a sphere of light. And that sphere indicates a portal. It indicates an ascension vehicle of some kind that ultimately manifests from within our own body.
Now, do you think Corey's crazy? I mean, what's your opinion on all this stuff?
I hear his story, and I immediately am getting resonance with what I know from the ancient world. It doesn't sound crazy at all to me, because I know blue sphere beings exist. I know blue avian beings exist in the ancient record. Whether they're actual beings or mythological beings, we can't answer for sure. But however, humanity has been, I could use the word obsessed with angelic beings for many thousands of years. And very often in this ancient art, they are portrayed as blue beings and often feathered or avian-type beings. They are blue avians.
Now, some people have accused Corey of just coming up with this elaborate story that has no precedent. So what I'm hearing you say is that there is a historical precedent for this.
Exactly. And when I first heard about Corey's story, that's exactly what I got. It's like, wow, there's resonance here. This is not something that you're pulling out of your imagination. This is something that has been in the human imagination for a very long time.
What is the relationship in your knowing between these blue avian type beings that you see in the art and ascension?
The blue avians are teachers. They are the bringers, the light bringers, if you will, of the mystery teachings of ascension. And when we look to these beings, we're looking to them as benefactors of humanity. You could go savior, but that's a whole other category of beings. But benefactors, they're wisdom bringers. They're trying to get us to wake up to our soul's potential of what is really within us and our ability to leave the earth if we choose and travel the cosmos.
And you said you've been researching this specific topic since 2002, correct?
That's correct. I started through my study of mystic Christianity, I started researching the ascension stories of Jesus. In the Bible, it clearly says that Jesus ascends in a cloud, and that furthermore, when he returns, he will return that same way, in a cloud. But when you go over to Christian art, yeah, you will see a cloud. You will see him standing on a cloud, like the Buddhist cloud riders, for example. But more often than not, there's a precedence for his ascension taking place in a blue sphere, or he is even portrayed as a blue being. And then he is ascending into the stars through this blue sphere, or returning to Earth in this blue sphere. It's clearly some kind of a transportation vehicle.
Well, let's dive out of the plane, parachute into this, because you have such amazing data. I don't want to rob any time from it. So
great.
What do we got to look at first here?
Okay, let's go back to the Temple of Horus in Egypt. It's in Upper Egypt. It's on the Nile, 300 BC. And this is what we're looking at here. We see the exterior walls of the Temple of Horus. And etched on the wall are these amazing depictions of Horus as a bird being. Now, the key thing is that very little color remains of this temple, but when you zoom in on it, as I have here, you see that Horus is clearly a blue being.
There's definitely some blue, like below the chin and above the eye.
Exactly.
Right.
And you can say, well, okay, somebody added that later or whatever. There's really not a history of Horus being a blue bird being, a blue avian. So let's go over to the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, which is nearby, also built at the same time. And what we see in the Temple of Hathor is this incredible depiction of Horus enthroned with a feathered cloak indicating he is a bird being. The bird symbolism is very apparent here, and he's on his ascension throne, which means this is a throne that he can travel into the stars. He's clearly a blue bird being, a blue avian in our context.
Now, Corey, what we see carved here does not look exactly like what you saw.
Correct.
But William, are these people, these are not eyewitnesses that carved this? This is like based on a legend, you think? Or
These are, well, it could be both. We never know where the artist got the inspiration. Did this artist at Dendera see a blue Horus, or was he told what to carve by some elder being? There is precedence in the text for the description of these beings in this way, but it's open to interpretation about exactly the source.
But the core is we have a human body.
Yes.
With a bird face that's blue.
Exactly.
Which is insane. This is crazy.
And when you look at Horus here, as I said, he's on his ascension throne, and you have a human figure that's offering a symbol for the soul as well as a gateway to him. Horus has several very important tools or implements in his hand. In his right hand, he holds this very long stick that's a resurrection stick. It's used for opening the gates of heaven. And in his left hand, he holds the key of life. Now, Corey, take a look at that resurrection stick and look at the bottom of that. What do you see?
It looks like a tuning fork or some sort of resonance device.
Looks like some kind of a tuning fork or something. Same with the key of life. These could be puns, but it could also be that this is some sort of a vibrational technology that he's demonstrating here.
Looks like a very subtle hint at something.
Exactly.
And we also know from some of the wisdom teachings episodes I did that the Bennu bird on the top of the staff is actually the head of a pteranodon. And it appears that occasionally these dinosaurs go through portals and they portal into our time, and that the Egyptians saw that and they enshrined that on this stick. So it does seem to represent ascension, portals, all that stuff because of this pteranodon head on the stick.
Very peculiar that they would have that kind of design, and we can match it up to our eyes with what appears to be some kind of a dinosaur that shouldn't have been in this scene. And so here we are looking at a benefactor, a teacher of humanity who is saying, I'm bringing you the key of life, and I'm also offering you a teaching, maybe a vibration that opens up some kind of a transportation vehicle for celestial transportation. And
the blue avians, their message has been about raising your vibration.
Okay. There you go. So it's about vibration. The vibration, of course, is love that they most want us to know about.
Love and forgiveness.
That's what opens the gateways. Right?
Are there any other points of continuity, William, that we're going to see between this design and some of the other ones in terms of like what he's sitting on or what he's wearing, anything like that?
Pay close attention to what's in their hand.
Okay.
There's very often going to be a stick, and pay attention to the throne that they're seated on.
Could you back up so we can look at that again real quick?
Yeah, take a look at that. So you've got,
what do we got here?
You got Horus wearing a feathered garment indicating flight or ascension or a bird.
Actual feathers.
Right, or actual feathers. And he's on a throne. Other examples of this throne will actually feature feathers on them. Osiris sits on a feathered throne because the idea is that it flies. This is how he comes and goes. And rather than showing a big spaceship or something like that, they're going to show us a simple throne. It's called, the technical term for it in mystic circles is the Merkaba throne chariot. This is the throne these beings sit on, and they ascend on this throne. They come and go on this throne.
It's fascinating.
Look at this example. This is extraordinary. We've got a pharaoh on his throne holding our key tools or implements, the stick, the key, and he's on a boat, a ship. It's called the Ship of Eternity, the Ark of the Millions of Years is the term they use for it. The Ark of the Millions of Years. I mean, what does that say?
It says a lot.
Yeah, these are eternal beings.
Right.
And it looks like the guy on the left is a lot larger than the person on the right. And one of the things, Corey, with the blue avians, right, they're taller than us.
Right. Yeah,
so that could be a connection.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Yeah. So we're in a blue sphere here.
Obviously.
We have a blue being and a blue sphere. This is a blue sphere being, okay? Putting it together.
It is crazy. I mean, you look at that, this gorgeous lapis lazuli stone.
Yep,
It's,
and gold.
yeah.
And along the top, notice the line of stars along the top. That's the Egyptian hieroglyph for heaven. So this is saying this is a heavenly being sailing his Ark of the Millions of Years on his throne in his blue sphere.
Right, the boat would be like a vessel, right? Something
It's
that
a
could
wormhole.
actually...
It actually looks like a wormhole.
Yeah.
The lotus buds on each end look like the mouths of a wormhole.
Right, exactly.
So this is a wormhole that this guy's traveling through. He's a happy camper. This is the goal of all human ascension quests. You want to get on that seat.
And Corey, you're actually traveling in these blue spheres when you go out there, right?
Right. Yes, they will appear in a room, zigzag around, stop about this far away from me, wait for me to indicate that I'm ready, and then they expand and I'm inside.
There you go. And we're going to talk about that as we go, because that is the key experience that all of us actually are capable of having. We can get a hold of one of these flashes of blue light and open it up into a blue sphere and enter into it and travel. But let's go forward here 300 years now. Let's leave Egypt, and now let's look at what we have here on the left.
That's crazy. There's wings, there's something that looks like a blue sphere, there's all kinds of radiance around it, like layers of a portal or something.
Yeah, this is
Where does
this is
this
a
come
last judgment scene. This means it's the second coming. So Christ is returning. He ascended on the cloud, and the book of Acts says he will return the same way he left, on this cloud. It's blue. This is Fra Angelico's painting, Renaissance. You have Jesus sitting on his ascension throne, surrounded by this mandorla, or almond-shaped gate of light, that is surrounded by blue angelic beings.
Is there any...
blue birds.
Was Fra Angelico in a mystery school or something? Was there any type of...
Yes, he was one of the benefactors of the de' Medici family. They had spent the equivalent of $50 million in contemporary dollars seeking the secrets of ascension.
Oh, really?
Called the Corpus Hermeticum. They decoded this, and then they went to Sandro Botticelli, Michelangelo, Fra Angelico, and they said, okay, here's the key codes of ascension. We're going to have you hide these in your art. And that's what they did.
You know, that indicates to me that these mystery school initiates must know about blue avians.
They have to. They absolutely have to. Any mystery school initiate, as we're doing here, and we're just looking at the first layer of this image, would be able to say, okay, that almond-shaped gateway, that's a portal. It's held open by blue avian beings. They've been coming and going to the earth plane for many thousands of years. And now we have Christ as the new Horus, as he's referred to, connected with the blue avians and celestial travel. He's coming and going from the cosmos in this portal or gateway surrounded by these blue beings. And it tells me that he is part of that same mystery school. That's what we're looking at here.
I think many of us may have seen these images, but never would have made this connection without the research.
Yeah, your ordinary Christian or other person's going to look at this and say, oh, there's blue angels around it. If they get that far, they might not even see them, because this stuff, that's how they hide it in plain sight. You don't at first see that he's surrounded in a gateway composed of these beings.
I want to just throw in something really quick so that some of the conspiracy theory people are going to put the gun down. Because what we hear about from the Edgar Cayce readings and from the Law of One is that the original Egyptian mystery school teachings were extremely positive. Isis, Osiris, Horus were positive beings teaching the same teachings as Christ. The Cayce readings say that, the Law of One says that, and then they were co-opted by the negative later on and distorted. So actually the Cayce readings do say that Thoth Hermes Trismegistus is a prior incarnation of Christ.
Yes.
And Thoth is one of these blue avians, right?
Well, you will definitely see him as a bird being with an ibis head.
Right.
I don't know that I have an image of him blue,
right.
But he won't necessarily have to be blue to be connected with this tribe of the bird tribe.
An avian human, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so, you know, the first time I went to Egypt, I'll never forget the guide saying, Christianity is the Egyptian religion. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're Muslims. You're Arabs. You're Muslim. And then about the third time I heard it, I got it. Christianity is the Egyptian religion updated. with now Christ as the new Horus. And the mystery teaching is all in the mystic side of Christianity, the Gnostic side, which came out of Egypt. I mean, Christianity came out of Egypt. And one thing the Catholic Church has done is try to sever that connection with Egypt. Because once you follow Jesus into Egypt, now all of a sudden you're confronted with this type of a thing and all these mystic ideas, and we don't want you going
too many questions come
don't
up.
go there.
Well, William, I'm also remembering sitting in at a lecture that Graham Hancock gave in which he was describing Egyptian spiritual teaching. And in the Egyptian spiritual teaching, you have a heart and a feather on a scale.
Yes.
And it says your heart has to weigh less than the feather to be ascended.
Absolutely. So let's just go back one moment and look at Mott, who is beaming Reiki energy or healing energy to the Pharaoh on the throne, and she's got a feather on top of her head. That's that same feather.
Oh, wow.
And this indicates that this being has passed the earth test. His heart is lighter than the feather. He's a pure being. And that's the only way he gets to sit on that throne, is he's got a pure heart.
Amazing.
He's a being of light and love.
So when we get back to this Renaissance art now, are you suggesting that the mystery school tradition from the Medicis, that they might have some secret documents that they didn't allow people to see that had images like this in them?
There's no question about it. Because what they knew, what they determined from their study of the Corpus Hermeticum, which they got from Egypt and believed is the original mystic Christian teaching, is the power of the image. The Corpus Hermeticum has a very important phrase, the image will show you the way. So they were very, very intent on encoding images with this power that will trigger memories, trigger connections that you can make. You start connecting the dots. You know, when I was a kid, highlights magazines, right? And so I'd sit on the floor and there's that one page, find the 15 items that are hidden in this page, and there was a list.
Like Roswaldo.
You spend hours, dude. I did anyway. Well, now that's all I do as an adult. I look at art and find the 15 hidden things in the art, but the thing is, the list isn't there. The de Medicis have the list because they put all this stuff there, and other initiates have the list, but we have to find the list, and that's kind of what we're doing here.
We have to decrypt it without a key.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm kind of hearing you say something similar to the concept of gnosis, where information is alive, and if you're exposed to that, it starts to trigger this metamorphosis in you.
Totally. Totally. So actually, images like this that we're looking at here of Jesus on his throne of ascension, this is not a static image. This is actually, to the mystery schools, this is a portal itself. They want you to enter into this scene. They want you to figure out what you got to do up here and in here in order to take this ride on this blue sphere. It's the whole game of Earth life. This is the ascension sphere. And you know you are ascended when you're in the blue sphere. Maybe these angelic beings like we're looking at here are surrounding you. It could be Jesus himself who's sitting beside you, who's come back to assist you in your ascension.
They must have cut me a big break.
Yeah, well, it's a vital image and message for us to get today, because we understand now today. We have the concept of stargates and wormholes and interstellar travel. We know there's a whole physics behind this now. And that's what's encoded in these images, this whole interstellar physics that's really a new spirituality. I call it Stargate metaphysics. And that's what we find in ancient Egypt. That's what we find in Christianity, Buddhism, Islam has it as well.
Not to mention so many people having near-death experiences.
Exactly.
Seeing beings of light come around them with these spherical auras around them.
The tube of light of the near-death experience is a wormhole.
Yeah.
We can pretty much put that one on the table and say that is a fact. But there's more to it than that. I mean, we know that wormhole exists, and we're all capable of ultimately opening a wormhole from within us. And that's the idea in these images. I mean, look at this. You got Jesus on this throne. He's in a blue sphere, and the sphere is filled with stars.
And now, that throne is not attached to the ground, right? He's levitating.
No, he's levitating. And so, I have kind of a Forrest Gump mentality sometimes. When I see a ring of stars or a gate of stars, I go, Stargate. This is a Stargate that he's in. Or let's put it this way, more comfort level for people. What if that Jesus is a Stargate traveling time traveler, and that's what the blue sphere is? What if?
But I think what you're also saying here is that these paintings you're showing us, they're not just artistic choices that these illustrators are making.
Right.
They're based on esoteric secret knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah,
we're not getting
too many
the full
different artists
secret.
are doing the same thing.
You know how we know that? The artists are often unknown.
Oh.
The author's like, it's not about me. It's not my greatness. It's about the message here. So the artists are unknown. And what
That's important.
And what we're trying to decipher is, okay, what is the real message behind it? Because they know most of the people are going to look at this and it's just going to go over their heads, or they're not going to have an interest. But if you really get an interest, now you're going, okay, this is the core message.
Okay, so William, when we're looking at these four angels around Jesus here in this blue sphere, who are they? What do we know about them?
They're archangels, and they're the guardians of the throne. Sometimes they're symbolized by the lion, bull, man, and eagle, which are the four primary symbols of the evangelist and the four directions and so forth. But their primary role is to indicate to us that this is happening in the heavenly realms, and that this is the power of flight or ascension that's being indicated, an angelic superpower.
And I believe the word angel in Greek is angelos, which means messenger.
Messenger,
Right?
right. Yeah, exactly.
So Corey, he's saying guardians, he's saying messenger. What is this conjuring up for you right now?
And earlier he said teacher. So it reminds me of many people who are having experiences with blue spheres. They're seeing blue spheres that appear in front of them, and sometimes they consciously remember or recall getting information from the sphere.
Right.
So these spheres are imparting knowledge and information to them that, and it's always about them growing and changing on the inside.
Right.
From within.
Yeah, I covered this in an episode called The Blue Sphere of the Soul in my show, The Awakened Soul, which is to say...
Have you heard of blue spheres visiting people with messages?
Yes, it's so vital. There's an Indian guru named Swami Muktananda. Swami Muktananda says that, okay, the most profound meditation experience you can have, that you can train yourself to do, is to raise your vibration so that you attract one of these blue sphere beings or flashes of light, and that it manifests before you, and it can open up to the size of a sphere so that a person can come through from the other side.
You're kidding.
Or you can enter the blue sphere and travel through it.
Is this in one of his books, or? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is really trippy because we're taping in Boulder, Colorado, and I was on a train after I graduated college to come out here to Boulder to try to apply to Naropa Institute.
Wow.
And while I was on the way here, I met two guys who were devotees of Muktananda.
Wow.
And one of these guys had gotten sick of being in the ashram and didn't want to do it anymore. And he's down at one end of the hall, Muktananda's at the other. And Muktananda shows up and puts his hand out like this, and this ball of blue light shows up in his hand.
Yeah.
And Muktananda throws it at him.
What?
It hits the guy,
Yeah.
and he goes into spasms of ecstasy. He's literally spasming on the ground. This is the guy on the train telling me this. Personal, it just randomly happens, right?
Yeah.
And then Muktananda comes up and says, so now you will be happy and enjoy being here, huh? And he's like, yes, yes. And after that, the guy was just sweeping and cleaning and doing all kinds of stuff.
That's a quick way to raise your vibration, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the message has been here we've documented 2,500 years of human history where these blue spheres have been around. It could be that now is our time for perhaps mass numbers of people to begin to develop this ability and to have this experience. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly natural for cosmic beings to be able to have this experience. Again, we're the caterpillar saying, you'll never get me up in one of those things.
Now, William,
this experience is for everyone.
Exactly.
You mentioned The Awakened Soul. You said that's a show?
Here on Gaia. It's
Okay.
The Awakened Soul, 13 episodes, Lost Science of Ascension. We start from the very beginning. I try to provide a historical context for the idea of ascension, going back into history and saying, hey, we've been talking about this for a very long time. And so let's look at the history of it. Let's look at the art. Let's step into it so that we can see that a lot of people, you hear the new agey term, I'm a star seed, right?
Right.
And it turns a lot of people off. But a lot of people don't know that that term was invented by the Stoics in ancient Greece, 200 BC.
Really?
Where they started discussing our soul as a star seed.
I would assume that it's more of a new age kind of term.
Right, and so that's part of the point of the Awakened Soul is to say, hey guys, this conversation we're having has been going on a very long time. Let's bring some historical documentation into it. Let's put some art with it, and let's show how we all can do this.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it, so thank you for mentioning that.
Well, let's see something else. What else you got in
Okay,
your bag of tricks here?
let's go to the 4th century AD. This is Egypt, from Egypt. I took this image from the Coptic Museum in Cairo, Egypt. The Coptics are the Egyptian Christians. They believe they have the original Christian story, which is different from the view most people understand today. But the key thing is, look, we've got Jesus sitting on a throne, holding a book in a blue sphere. This is an ascension scene.
Just for the sake of the skeptic, is it possible that all of these guys could have seen each other's artwork? Or are they too geographically isolated?
They are geographically isolated. It is possible someone went to Egypt in the 4th century or so forth and saw this and they've duplicated it.
Right.
But the idea is that this is part of the Christian documentation. This is what they say. This is the experience. And this is corroborated then by other people who have had similar experiences, such as yourself.
And back then, art was rooted in tradition.
Right. And people were going to stick with the tradition, too. They aren't going to veer off and try to come up with their own interpretation of it, because it's sacred.
Well, something I'm thinking of, too, William, is it says in the Bible that Jesus would only speak to the masses in parables.
Right.
But then to his disciples behind the scenes, which we don't get to read in Scripture, he's saying things that are not in parable.
Right.
Do you think this is part of the undisguised teaching?
I think this is part of the secret teaching of Christianity, because your average, ordinary Christian has probably never seen images like this, and there's a reason for that, because this is for the initiates.
Yeah, I was raised Christian and still consider myself a Christian.
Right.
And I have not seen most of these images.
Right. And because the church hierarchy has said, okay, we'll just keep that over here, and then maybe people will discover it on their own. So looking at this image here, it's really provocative, because you've got Jesus in the blue sphere, and notice the concentric rings. As a symbolist, when I see concentric rings, I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking sound or vibration. Sound rings. Whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm also,
and it goes back to that tuning fork.
Exactly. It goes back to the tuning fork, the key of light. And I'm also thinking portal, vortex, gateway, wormhole. Okay? And so here we could read this and say, all right, this is Jesus on his throne in a vibrational gateway, obviously exuding light and love. And he's traveling through the cosmos. And now we add, in this image, these counter-rotating rings. That's that torsion field. What are we talking about?
And it
here?
also could be he's a higher vibrational being, and it could be vibrations emanating from him as well.
And see, that's the key point, too, because these are super high vibrational beings that are beyond our normal perception. So they need some manner or vehicle to slow down so that we can perceive them. And perhaps that's part of the function of the blue sphere. It's certainly the function of that throne, because I'm going to give you a real esoteric secret here. That throne, with his feet on the footstool, that's the Ark of the Covenant. Christianity is supposed to have dispensed with the Ark of the Covenant, because that's an Old Testament image. And Jesus doesn't need the Ark of the Covenant.
Right, the New Covenant.
Right, New Covenant. But he's got his feet on the footstool, and the footstool of God is the Ark of the Covenant. It's the earth and the Ark of the Covenant. So what if the Ark of the Covenant, then, is some kind of a device that slows him down so that we can perceive him? Because otherwise he's moving too fast and completely out of our range of perception.
And in the Old Testament, the way it's described, it sounds like a device.
Absolutely. There's no question it's some kind of a device.
Multi-purpose device.
Exactly. And I go beyond it being an electrical device, some kind of radioactive weapon or whatever, into it's a teleportation machine.
Well,
so that
also,
might just too far out for our conversation.
The storming of the walls of Jericho, they use the ark and they blow the horns, and then the walls turn into mud. The stone just goes into liquid and it all falls down.
Like they used vibration.
Yeah, definitely. So. But here again, we've got the throne and the blue sphere together. This is the Egyptian image from the blue Aviares.
And you just triggered something in me when we're looking at these concentric spheres. So amazing. In April 2001, I made a prayer, and I said, the only thing that hasn't happened to me yet is I've read about these people seeing blue spheres, and I want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
And then I call my father, and he's on the other line with my brother, so we get into a three-way call. And my brother then explains that he had seen a blue sphere in his meditation.
Wow.
and this thing shows up, it's just hovering in the room, and then it goes up to the ceiling, and it spreads out into a vortex that looks just like that. The way he described it was brighter on the edges, and it got bluer towards the middle.
When he told me this, I was shocked.
It turned into a stargate. It looked like a wormhole going up through his ceiling.
Right.
And then when it faded, it said, "The ascension that your brother is writing about will not happen all at once. It is a series of increasingly uplifting events. This is the first of these events for you."
There you go. There you go.
Blew me away. And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, this
blew
is
you
exactly
away?
what my brother saw.
Right. So here's the detail here. I mean, where he's got the book of knowledge. It's the book about, hey, this is how you do it. And he's got the breastplate. He's got the cross right there at the breastplate, which indicates the open heart chakra, right? And he's giving us a blessing here. So if we are, sensitive and attuned, we're really locking onto the symbolism and saying, okay, he's inviting us to open the blue sphere within ourselves, or to invite a blue sphere into our awareness so that we can have this experience.
Well,
This
cool.
is
And that's the
amazing.
ascension.
Well, Corey, what's the connection between, because we're kind of dancing around this, we haven't quite hit it though. What is the connection between the message of Christ and the blue avians and the sphere beings, and even maybe let's toss in the people from the inner earth, the library conversation you had with Kari? How does this all thread together?
Well, their message is all about forgiving others, forgiving yourself, to constantly strive to be service to others,
Yeah.
and to raise your vibration, to focus the light inwardly,
Yeah.
to pull the log out of your own eye before you start reaching for the splinter in other people's eyes.
Right.
And that sounds like the tenet of most of the religions.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I get out of that message from you is that, hey, this gives us additional motivation to actually do that. Because now you know that, hey, you're not living a life of service just to get a reward, but if you know that this is the reward, it's going to really motivate you, I think.
Yeah. Let's see some more of these images. These are amazing.
Great. Okay. So this is Mount Sinai. We all know the story of Moses and Mount Sinai. There's a beautiful monastery there where they started developing a lot of this early imagery. And here we have the ascended Christ on a rainbow bridge in a blue sphere filled with stars, once again. So this is obviously another portal or gateway indicating that he's traveling through the celestial realms.
And you've said in other stuff, and I covered this in wisdom teachings a little bit, when he's sitting on the rainbow, what does that mean?
That indicates that he's in what's called the rainbow body of light. That's the Tibetan term for it. Christians call it the glory body, the resurrection body. It's the butterfly I referenced earlier. The next level of human evolution within us is this light body that is portrayed as radiating rainbow-colored light. And so anytime you see Jesus sitting on a rainbow or enfolded within this rainbow light, that indicates that he is in his glory body, which is a pun on, the word glory means to glow rays. So he's glowing rays here, and he's in his light body form.
Well, it looks like he's standing on a blue sphere.
It does. There is that second blue kind of arc beneath him, which again is the footstool idea. But again, Stargate traveling, possibly
Stars in the
time
background, same
Stars in
from the last
background.
image. Yeah.
Right.
Can you just tell us again, what do you have, what's new and hot here on Gaia that you've got to offer?
The Awakened Soul.
Okay.
It's 13 episodes of the Lost Science of Ascension, where we're going to take people through this incredible history of ascension with also practices involved as well, referencing many different traditions, the Christian, the Buddhist, the Egyptian tradition, the divine feminine, and how they all view this idea of ascension and how we can make it a reality for ourselves.
That's awesome.
I'm really glad this was brought to my attention because like I said earlier, many of us have seen some of these images. We never would have put this together.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it's a powerful story. It's, I think, the message for our time so that we can all raise our vibration in this way and perhaps take a ride in one of these blue spheres.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for in this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. I'm David Wilcock. We got William Henry and Corey Goode here, and we thank you for watching.
He has been, I could use the word obsessed with angelic beings for many thousands of years. And very often in this ancient art, they are portrayed as blue beings and often feathered or avian-type beings. They are blue avians.
Now, some people have accused Corey of just coming up with this elaborate story that has no precedent. So what I'm hearing you say is that there is a historical precedent for this.
Exactly. And when I first heard about Corey's story, that's exactly what I got. It's like, wow, there's resonance here. This is not something that you're pulling out of your imagination. This is something that has been in the human imagination for a very long time.
What is the relationship in...
Well, I always take people back to the story of the caterpillar and the butterfly. The idea is that we're all living in a pupal phase in our human body, but within us is an ascended phase, a next level, the butterfly. And the problem is we're kind of like that cartoon I saw once of the two caterpillars looking at the butterfly, and another one flies by and they say, "You'll never get me up in one of those things," right? we don't have a concept of what it means to ascend. But simply it means to become a celestial traveler, a cosmic being, to leave behind our caterpillar phase and morph or phase into an ascended form. And as you said, I've really studied the art of ascension, and they almost always show it the same.
All right, welcome to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, David Wilcock. I'm here with Corey Goode, and we have a special edition for you here with the legendary William Henry. Now, I've been familiar with William Henry's work since the late 1990s. He has been extremely consistent. I've gone all over the place. I've talked about everything you can imagine, Illuminati, UFOs. William has always been focused on ascension, focused on Christ, focused on...
Way. It's a humanoid form, a light being, a luminous, radiant being, often shown in a sphere of light. And that sphere indicates a portal. It indicates an ascension vehicle of some kind that ultimately manifests from within our own body.
Now, do you think Corey's crazy? I mean, what's your opinion on all this stuff?
I hear his story, and I immediately am getting resonance with what I know from the ancient world. It doesn't sound crazy at all to me because I know blue sphere beings exist. I know blue avian beings exist in the ancient record. Whether they're actual beings or mythological beings, we can't answer for sure, but however, humanity...
The true core of what the message is that we're all ultimately here to convey. And William has really done an incredible amount of work, unlike anybody I've ever seen, in terms of looking at art and seeing some really, really provocative stuff. And when we found out the information that William had and the corroborating power that that brings to Corey Goode's testimony, we said, that's it, we have got to have him on the show. Wait till you see the stuff that we have in this episode. It is going to blow your mind. So, William, how you doing, buddy?
Very good. Very good.
Can you just give us a little take on your idea of ascension? What is ascension?